On October 2nd of 2006, a milk truck driver drove to the West Nickel Mines Amish school located in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. What he would do inside would absolutely shock this community. This is the Amish Massacre. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also ballet. I just love to dance. But anyway, today we're going over a very twisted and bizarre case. I'm a bit confused by it, and you'll figure out why later. It'll probably confuse you too. Charles Carl Roberts IV was born on December 7th of 1973 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to Teresa or Terry and Charles or Chuck Roberts. Charlie was the oldest of 4 boys, and his father was a police officer, and his mother worked at Armstrong World Industries, a wall and ceiling company. Charlie was born with his feet twisted in a club position. The same thing happened to his mother. This would force him to have to wear casts and braces and potentially even surgery down the line. Every couple of weeks, his cast would have to be changed, and it was a tedious and hurtful process for him, and he hated it. This lasted for a total of 6 months, and then for the next 2 years of his life, he would have to wear leg braces. Eventually, it dropped down to him only having to wear them during the night because he learned how to walk much faster than anticipated. By the age of 6, Charlie had basically 0 signs that he had anything wrong with his legs. He healed very well. His mother took him to the doctors for a follow-up, and they decided he wouldn't need surgery. At this same age, Charlie's parents moved homes to a bigger house because their family was expanding, or Charlie was becoming an older brother. When he started attending school, he wasn't exactly the greatest student. As a young boy, he loved to build things with building blocks or Legos, which were his favorite. Charlie loved animals, and he also loved working with his grandfather on projects. In school around this time, he was having terrible trouble learning, and his teachers were afraid he was going to fall behind. Ultimately, his parents decided to homeschool him. Charlie's mother said that he was a quiet child who was well-behaved and very loved, that he was always helping out with his brothers. She said that there was only one time that she could remember that Charlie ever got seriously disciplined. Still at 6 years old, Charlie and his brother, who was 3 at the time, stole a Tommy or Tommy toy. It's a little wind-up toy from the 70s to 80s. Charlie's mom made him and his brother pay for the items and apologize. After this, none of the boys ever stole anything again. Charlie's family had a dog named Susie, and Charlie was the primary person who loved her and cared for her. Susie one day left home because she was considered to be a wanderer, and she never returned. This crushed Charlie, and he blamed himself for not going out to look for her more, to find her. A few years later, at the age of 12, Charlie apparently did something really bad. We'll get into that later, but it just gets really weird. But Charlie was the only one out of 4 to be completely homeschooled. His other brothers eventually went to public school or Catholic school. Charlie had the choice to go there, but he chose just to be homeschooled. His favorite subject was math. It was clear to both of his parents that he was very introverted. He wasn't a recluse, as his mother stated, but he just wasn't talkative. Charlie had a dry sense of humor and did make a lot of people laugh. His entire family spent a lot of time together. They vacationed a lot with their extended family. Everything seemed to be okay. Charlie did have 2 best friends when he was younger named Ryan and Craig. Craig and Charlie were closer, and they shared the same initials, or CR. The boys decided when they got older, they'd become truckers and start a trucking company called CR Trucking. That never exactly happened, but they did remain good friends for some time. When Charlie was 15 years old, his mother Terry became worried that he was too isolated from the outside world. Charlie's parents had just bought a new house in Strasburg Township in 1989, which had a population that time of around 3,500 people. Charlie was the reason that they moved because he had seen an ad on TV that said that they could buy a home and have it be built on the property right next to his grandparents. Eventually, that little dream he had became a reality, and his parents made it happen. At the time the new house was getting built, Charlie became infatuated with the carpenters who were working. Charlie decided that carpentry was what he wanted to do with his life. At the age of 16 years old, Charlie shot and killed his first deer. His family taught him how to hunt. While still in high school, he volunteered to paint houses for Habitat for Humanity, a nonprofit organization that seeks to help build affordable housing. Charlie became really good at being a handyman, and if anyone needed anything, they'd go to him. But in 1990, Charlie was 17 years old and was working as a dishwasher at the Good and Plenty family-style restaurant. By then, he was about 6'2", and to most people, he was a quiet but good person. People would call him Charlie or Chuck, or sometimes even Chuckles because he laughed a bit funny. The owner of the restaurant, Glenn, said that Charlie never caused any trouble and was a normal guy. A very good friend of Charlie's that he met at the restaurant, named Gerald Meyer, said that Charlie really liked Mustangs and sports, that he loved the Philadelphia Eagles and paid a lot of attention to Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Gerald said that Charlie also really enjoyed guns and shooting them, that Charlie had Gerald over his parents' home a few times so that way they could shoot clay targets. Gerald said that Charlie was a very good shot. Charlie enjoyed going to the movies with his friends or shooting pool or going to the beach. Charlie was also very shy to women, and Gerald said that one time they went mini golfing on a double date and Charlie barely said a word to the girl. Charlie would also play pickup basketball and football or play cards with friends. All in all, he seemed to most people like a normal guy. One of those friends he hung out with a few times was named Lawrence Youngkin, and his girlfriend's name was Lisa Michelle Lambert. Well, in 1991, Lawrence, Lisa, and a friend of theirs named Tabitha Buck killed a 16-year-old girl named Laurie Snow. Laurie was stabbed over 30 times, and that was done by Lisa and Tabitha. It was a bit hard to tell if Lawrence was involved. It was confusing. I think he was, but it's a little bit eerie. Anyway, about a year later or so, in 1992, Charlie by this point had obtained his diploma from being homeschooled, and so his mother called the owner of the construction company that worked on their home. She asked the owner if he would hire Charlie, and he told her that he would. By April of that year, Charlie began working full-time as one of 4 carpenters on a framing crew. They would basically build the homes. But Charlie had no idea what he was doing, though he did learn fairly quickly. The other 3 guys that worked with him said that he stayed to himself and kept pretty quiet. About 2 years later, in 1994, Charlie was playing a pickup game of basketball, as he liked to do, and he injured his knee very severely. He couldn't work anymore and had to go on disability. Now, around this time, he met a girl named Marie Welk through his grandmother. Basically, Charlie's grandmother went to the same church as Marie, and she invited Marie to a dinner that Charlie was at. Mind you that Charlie was 20 to 21 years old at the time, and Marie would have been either 16 or 17. Eventually, they hit it off. Marie said that it wasn't love at first sight, but their relationship developed smoothly over time. As things grew serious, Charlie was on disability for about 6 months. Eventually, he returned to carpentry with his crew, but in February of 1996, he quit. Charlie then started to work as a residential garage door installer for Overhead Door Corporation, which was a more steady and year-round job. He would also be working by himself rather than with a crew. Now, when Charlie was 22 years old, he asked Marie, who was now 18, if she would marry him, and she said yes. They decided to buy a townhome together pretty close by to Lidditz, Pennsylvania for $71,000. Marie was working as a clerk at a healthcare company and still in high school. Several months away was her graduation, and around this time her and Charlie began planning their wedding, which would happen in November, and he really wanted to make the day magical and special. So by this point, it was probably about the summer of '96. Charlie was good at installing garage doors, but he wanted to do something else. One day, he went up to one of his supervisors and told him that his biggest goal was to start driving 18-wheelers. Charlie had gotten this idea from Marie's family, who had owned a milk business for well over 50 years. He had become so obsessed with trucks that he asked Marie's father, Ken, if he could drive him and Marie on their wedding day. On November 9th of 1996, the couple got married at the Highview Church of God, and Ken drove them there. They also had a photo shoot. Things were certainly looking up for the both of them and their family that they were looking to create. Things were looking great until they weren't. In late September of 1997, Marie had found out that she was pregnant, and both her and Charlie were so excited. The due date would be around February of 1998. On November 14th of that year, something very upsetting would occur. Charlie had made a phone call to his job installing garage doors and told them that their child, a daughter who was named Elise Victoria, had been born prematurely. As a result of this, she ended up dying within 20 minutes of being born. Now, Marie was having some issues the weeks leading up to this, but it was still very shocking. Charlie asked if he could have some time off because obviously this destroyed him. At his daughter's funeral, he was the one who carried the casket, and that situation would never, not once, leave his mind. In fact, this may possibly have been the worst thing to ever happen to him. Charlie would end up buying his wife a necklace with Lisa's birthstone. It's clear he loved her deeply. About a year and a half would pass, and in April of 1999, Charlie earned a Class A license that was needed to drive 18-wheelers. He didn't go to school and learn or anything, but his now father-in-law Ken taught him everything. Ken ended up hiring Charlie, and he started driving, carrying up to 50,000 pounds of milk. His hours were from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m., and he worked in solitaire. Where Charlie would work just so happened to go through an Amish community. It was Bart Township, Pennsylvania, and Charlie seemed to be liked by some and not so much by others. Some of the community said that Charlie respected the Amish and their beliefs, and that the Amish children would say hello to Charlie and wave to him, but he'd rarely reply, and you could tell that he was visibly shy. That Charlie usually didn't have much to say. Some other people in the community had made sure that their children had stayed away from Charlie while he was delivering milk because he apparently would swear a lot and always seemed frustrated. That it appeared as if he didn't really like his job. Now, in May of 1999, Charlie and Marie sold their first home. For a bit of time, they lived in a small apartment above Marie's family's business until they moved into a home that was owned by Marie's grandfather that was next to the business. Another big aspect about this time is that Marie had just found out that she was yet again pregnant. By September of '99, a beautiful baby girl named Abigail was born. She didn't have any issues and was very healthy. Things were looking up for the family, and by 2001, another baby was born, a boy named Bryce. Now, I'm not too sure exactly when, but I believe that Marie had another miscarriage. Some things that I read said that it happened twice, so I'm not too entirely sure. But Charlie was still working at the same job. I'm not entirely sure, once again, what Marie was doing, if she was a full stay-at-home mom or not. But by April of 2003, Charlie had gotten into an accident in his milk truck with a guy named Wenceslau. He was driving a Cadillac. Charlie hopped out of his truck, and instead of asking how the other people were, he began yelling that Wenceslau didn't stop at the stop sign. Wenceslau was like, "Wait a minute, yes I did." His wife, Patricia, was in the car with him. She was in the passenger seat. She said that Charlie was very angry and accused them of speeding, saying that it was 100% their fault. In 2004, Charlie purchased a 9mm handgun. He also had a few other guns, including a shotgun, but it's not at all stated when those were purchased. A few more months, and in 2005, Charlie and Marie had their last child named Carson. Next comes the year 2006. This year, Charlie would randomly snap. Now in 2006, Charlie had to go to a deposition for the car accident from 3 years prior. He told the court that there was a confrontation that day, but that he never got angry and Wenceslau and he didn't do anything. Charlie ended up being found liable for $7,500 worth of damages. He was getting progressively more and more twisted in his mind, but no one knew. It's not exactly clear when Charlie began to think evil thoughts, but the progress happened very quickly. It was definitely at least several months, and you'll see why that is soon. On Tuesday, September 26th of 2006, Charlie began to buy things and really set a plan into motion. Now, he wanted to have a lot of things, and at the time his personal vehicle was a 2-door Jeep Wrangler. Charlie thought it was just too small, and so he asked his father-in-law, Ken, if he can borrow his pickup truck, a light blue GMC. This would be the perfect vehicle for Charlie's evil plan. He told his father-in-law that he needed the truck to haul lumber, which wasn't exactly a false statement. However, he didn't need to take any wood anywhere on that Tuesday. He needed to a few days from there. You'll know why shortly. But on that Tuesday, Charlie went to a hardware store and bought 2 packages of white zip ties. This hardware store was owned by the Amish, and the owners there said that Charlie barely ever talked to anyone unless he was talked to first. 2 days later, on Thursday, September 28th of 2006, Charlie went to a gun shop called Route 41, and he bought a 300,000 volt stun gun for $35. Charlie also started writing in journals about what he needed. He came up with his item list and marked a few things off. Tape, marked off. Eye bolts, marked off. Tools, nails, wrenches, hose, KY lubricant jelly. Bullets, hard to read. Binoculars, earplugs, batteries, marked off. Flashlights, candle, marked off. Wood, rope, marked off. I'll get into what police believed to be his full plan shortly, but it's very disgusting. Also, this week, before Charlie did anything, people said he was eerily happy and cheerful, that he was very social and never was normally like that. Apparently, by the weekend, however, his mood once again shifted a bit towards being spacey and out of it. On Sunday, October 1st of 2006, Charlie worked until 3 a.m. the next day, or Monday, October 2nd. He fell asleep for about 3 hours or so, and by 7:30 a.m. he was up and helping his wife get their kids ready for school. At 8:45 a.m., the couple walked their kids to the bus stop, something that was routine for them. As the 2 children were hopping on the bus, Marie said to their children, "Hey kids, come back here. Dad wants to give you a hug." They both walked up to him, and Charlie knelt down and gave both of them a hug and kiss and said, "Remember, Daddy loves you." At about 9 a.m., Marie left to go to a prayer group with some friends at church. This same time, Charlie was supposed to go have a drug test taken, which was required for his job, but he didn't do that. Many articles say he instead began to write several notes to his wife and children, but I personally believe he wrote the notes days prior due to the timeline. Next, Charlie made sure he had everything ready to go. With him, he carried his 9mm pistol, a 12-gauge shotgun, and a rifle. He also had a belt with 2 knives and a stun gun attached to it, in his pocket a cell phone that belonged to Marie. Charlie brought a range bag that was filled with 600 rounds of ammunition and 2 cans of smokeless powder. In a 5-gallon bucket, he brought a change of clothes, toilet paper, and earplugs. In one box, there were tools, which included a hammer, a saw, pliers, and wire. In another box, there were wire ties, eye bolts, rolls of clear tape, and other things such as zip ties, KY lubricant jelly, chains, clamps, restraints, etc. It was very clear that Charlie was planning to do something very, very evil and planned to stay doing it for a long time. Most reports say that Charlie had drove to the Amish community at around 10:25-ish, but in reality, he was there at about 9:45 a.m. He had just stopped by the hardware store to buy more zip ties and made two purchases, one at 9:14 a.m. and another at 9:16 a.m. An Amish carpenter named Aaron was going to the supply store at 9:45 when he saw Charlie standing next to the light blue GMC pickup truck close to the auction house. He was watching the children play outside from across the road. It was the West Nickel Mines Amish school kids at recess. Aaron didn't think too much of it because he's seen Charlie before and has seen him park in a similar location. At about 10:20 to 10:25-ish, those kids and the teachers or helpers all went back inside of the school. During the same time, Marie had just left church with a friend and dropped her friend off before she went back home. Charlie, however, was in the process of backing his truck up to the school. The time was now approximately 10:25 a.m., and Charlie got out of his car and then walked inside. The teacher's name was Emma Mae Zook, and during this day, she had a few of her family members there. This included her mother Barbie and her sister-in-law Sarah, who was 23 years old. She was there also with her 2-year-old daughter and her newborn son. Sarah also had both of her sisters there, Lydia Mae, who was 21 and 8 months pregnant, and Ruth Ann, who was 16. There was 26 total students inside. 15 of them were boys and 11 of them were girls. At the time, Miss Zook was teaching German and spelling when all of a sudden Charlie came through the door. The door was wide open because obviously no one could ever imagine or think something like this would happen. But anyway, Charlie walked up to the teacher and showed her a clevis pin. It's a U-shaped device that closes by a type of fastener. Charlie asked the teacher if she or anyone else had seen one on the road. Miss Zook said that Charlie stood very close to her and didn't look at her while talking, and most people in the classroom recognized him because he was their milkman. Afterwards, Charlie left pretty awkwardly, and within moments he came back inside. This time he had a gun, and he was aiming it at everyone. Miss Zook's mother, Barbie, saw the gun, and somehow both of them managed to run to a nearby farm to call the police. Meanwhile, Charlie told one of the boys that was in the class to go get the two women and bring them back, or he's shooting everyone. When that boy left, a 9-year-old girl named Emma sneakily escaped with him. This would end up saving her life. Both of her sisters, however, were still inside. Charlie at this point ordered everyone to go to the back of the classroom, and Sarah, Lydia Mae, and Ruth Ann all tried to comfort the children, most of whom were crying. Charlie all of a sudden said to the women that they can leave, and he made the boys go out to his truck to get the rest of his belongings. The women stayed near the playground and had no idea what to do. A few more minutes would pass, and soon all of the boys were kicked out of the school, and they all ran to a farm close by. Charlie only wanted the girls in the classroom, and after everyone but the girls left, he barricaded the door using the wood he was hauling earlier. There were 10 total girls, and he ordered all of them to line up with their faces against the blackboard. He told them to be quiet while he tied their ankles and arms with wire and zip ties. The teacher, Emma Mae Zook, and her mother Barbie had reached the farm and asked farmer Amos Smoker if he could call the police. Amos immediately called the police at 10:35 a.m. The actual phone call was never released, but they did release the transcript. Amos called and said that there's a guy at the school with a gun. He stayed on the line for a while and was transferred a few times. The first officer arrived at approximately 10:42 a.m., and several more followed afterwards. A few of the officers then tried to approach the school, and Charlie was looking outside. He yelled at them to leave and told them if they don't, he'll shoot the girls, and so the officers all backed away and tried to figure out what to do. While they waited for backup, They tried to speak to Charlie through their PA system in their cars, but once Charlie wasn't budging, he told them they need to leave. A few minutes would go by, and it's unclear exactly what was happening, but at 10:55 a.m., Charlie called the Lancaster County 911. They asked him what he needed and if he has an emergency, to which he said yes. The dispatcher asked him, "Okay, what's the address of the emergency?" Charlie said, "It's on White Oak Road. I just took 10 girls hostage and I want everybody off the property or else." The dispatcher said, "Okay, all right." Charlie then said, "Now." The dispatcher said, "Hold on a second," and then said, "Hello." Charlie replied by saying, "Yeah." The dispatcher said, "Okay, what's the problem there?" Charlie then said, "Don't try to talk me out of it. Get them all off of the property now." The dispatcher said, "Sir, I want you to stay on the phone with me, okay? I'm going to let the state police down there. I need to let you talk to them, okay? Can I transfer you to them?" To which Charlie said, "No, you tell them, and that's it. Right now, or they're dead in 2 seconds." The 911 dispatcher then said to their supervisor that Charlie won't let them transfer the call. Next, the dispatcher said to Charlie, "Hang on a minute, we're trying to tell them, okay?" Charlie said, 2 seconds, that's it. The dispatcher said, "Sir, listen to me, listen." But this is where the line went dead. Charlie then called his wife Marie using her cell phone that he brought with him. He called the house phone. His first words were, "Marie, it's me." Marie could sense that something evil was afoot, and she said that she never heard his voice sound like that before. She immediately could tell something was horribly wrong. Marie said back, "Charlie, what's going on?" Charlie said, "I'm not coming home." Marie then said, "What are you talking about? What do you mean you aren't coming home?" Charlie replied by saying there's something he needs to do, something that he should have taken care of a long time ago, and that he's going to do it today. Marie was shocked, and so many questions were running through her head, she literally didn't know what to say. Charlie then said, "I left a letter for you. It's on top of the dresser under a magazine. I'm sorry it has to be this way, Marie." Marie said that Charlie's voice was so weird that it had no life to it. Marie then said to him, "Charlie, whatever it is, just come home. We'll talk about it and figure it out." Charlie said that he's very upset about something that happened 20 years ago when he was 12 years old. Charlie said that when he was 12, he molested his 3- and 4-year-old cousins, and that he's been dreaming about doing it again for over 2 months now. There's something interesting regarding this that I'll tell you later. But Charlie eventually abruptly hung up the phone on his wife after saying that everything will be okay and that he loves her and their family. And I'll now read you the note that he left on their dresser. "I don't know how you put up with me all those years. I am not worthy of you. You are the perfect wife. You deserve so much better. We had so many good memories together, as well as the tragedy with Elise. It changed my life forever. I haven't been the same since. It affected me in a way I never felt possible. I am filled with so much hate towards myself, hate towards God, and unimaginable emptiness. It seems like every time we do something fun, I think about how Elise wasn't here to share it with us, and I go right back to anger." After this, Marie called the police at 10:58 a.m. and told them exactly what Charlie told her. Her life would never be the same, and everything she knew would be shattered. Charlie knew that it was all over, and so he decided to shoot every single girl that was in the classroom. Before that happened, a 13-year-old named Marion Fisher, whose sister escaped earlier, said to Charlie, "Shoot me first." She was trying to buy some time for her classmates and sister. Then her sister, Barbie or Barbara, said to Charlie, "Shoot me second." Charlie would end up shooting a total of 10 girls, all of them that were in the classroom. 5 of them would die and 5 would survive. The ones that survived, lives were changed forever. Charlie's last words said were him asking the girls to pray for him, specifically 3 words, "Pray for me." He also said that he's not going to follow through with it, but did. And with one final act, he took himself out very cowardly. Considering the fact that he wasn't religious and hated God, that was a bit of a weird statement. This awful day left so many families and an entire community broken, though they were very, very strong about it. There's a lot of weird things about this case that I don't think we'll ever have the answers to. Charlie was clearly deranged, but no one, not even those closest to him, could tell. An entire investigation was done, but not much information was released. Earlier, I mentioned how he told his wife that when he was 12, he murdered 2 relatives of his. I'm not sure if he told her the exact names or not, but I do know that the police had visited all of his family members and tracked down the 2 girls. Apparently, they said that Charlie never did anything to them, that they are very confident that that never happened.
The relatives who Mr. Roberts alleged to have assaulted, we have located them, we have interviewed them today. Both of them have no recollection of being by Roberts.
I'm not saying that they were too young to remember or anything, but that whole situation is so bizarre. Why on earth would Charlie out himself about something like that if it never actually occurred? It's unclear, and police never specified whether or not they believe he was just imagining it, that he was just imagining everything. Charlie was very clearly heading down a dangerous path, but what's unclear is why. He was looked at as a great father who went shopping with his children, was playful, funny. He took the kids to their soccer practice and games. He would play with them in their backyard, and he would never say no to changing a diaper. There were literally no signs that Charlie would ever do something like this. Police believe that his plan was to the girls after he tied all of them up. This was given the fact that he brought KY lubricant jelly and what he told his wife. Charlie assumed he would have much more time because the Amish aren't as connected to the outside world, hence the reason he brought so much stuff with him. His entire plan lasted a little over 40 minutes, and none of the girls were found to be. At the end of the day, Charlie will only be remembered for his evil acts and nothing more. It's very interesting though, because the Amish afterwards forgave Charlie and his family basically immediately. They attended his funeral and also helped Marie afterwards, including family members of some of the girls who had died. They had zero animosity towards Charlie or his family and wished the best for them. The community had believed everything happens for a reason. Charlie's mother even started visiting one of the girls who was shot every week, and that girl had life-altering issues. 8 months afterwards, Charlie's wife Marie got remarried, and while I do find the timing to be very fast, I have nothing else to say about that. I can only imagine being put into her shoes, and I genuinely wish the best for her and her children. Both Charlie's mother Terry, who passed away in 2017, and his wife Marie released books that offer their perspectives. With all of the children, there were 0 images of them released. All 5 of these girls were innocent children with their entire lives ahead of them. Unfortunately, on that day, they came into contact with pure evil. Someone who was familiar to many of them, given the fact that he was their milkman. I hope that all of these poor girls are resting peacefully and that their families have been able to heal. But anyways, thank you for watching this episode of High Time Crime. If true crime is your thing, then please like and subscribe because it's all we do. I also have an all-exclusive Patreon if you're interested in that. There's a bunch of tiers to choose from, and the third one allows for you to see a Patreon-only video, and that tier and the second one allow you to have your name at the end of each High Time Crime video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, friend.